Welcome to The Impossible, where we empower others to face the impossible, inspire them to be impossible, and motivate them to do the impossible. Guys, we are back, Austin and I, for kind of a solo discussion episode this week, and we're doing things a little bit differently because we actually had no idea what we were going to be chatting about coming into this episode today because, as we've talked about before, if you've listened to some of our previous episodes, we have an online school community platform. This is a brand new thing. It's kind of like an educational, community-based social media. So there's none of the garbage that exists in social media today. None of the divisiveness, none of the fake AI robots, none of the massive amounts of ads you see every single post. This is just a space where people who are like-minded and wanting to learn and grow and share in our mission and our message and our vision at Impossible Performance, we can all come together. We can discuss difficult ideas and topics. We have courses on there you guys can learn about. We have live monthly group calls every month. We do webinars every month. And it's really just built to be an educational space and resource for you guys to utilize when pursuing your passion and your purpose in life and when you're chasing your highest level of potential. So, in keeping with that theme, we also give our school members a lot of podcast exclusives, and one of those is coming to the forefront today. Our school community members actually chose the topics of today's podcast, which is really cool and really exciting for Austin and I because it's we actually had about a 10-12 minute discussion before we jumped on and started airing about how do we what is the nuance? How do we unfold and unpack, and how are we going to discuss some of these complex topics? So it's a really fun adventure for us to go down, and it's also exciting to bring our school community members into the conversation on this podcast. And that's something we've wanted to move forward for a long period of time as we talk about in our vision for the podcast. We're looking to build a global culture of strength, and we truly mean that every time we say it. And it all has begun with this school community. So if you guys are interested in learning more about that school community, the link is right at the top of the show notes. Go ahead and pause this video. You can scroll down a little bit, and you can click on that link that says join our school community here. Click that link, go in, explore it, learn more about it. It's actually still free to join right now. So you can join right now for free. There are some paid upgrade benefits to it, but you can still join for free, get a lot of these podcast exclusives to it, and just become a part of our community and dive a little deeper into our mission and our message. And while you're at it, while you're down there clicking on that link to join the school community, if you could do us a massive favor, click the subscribe button on whatever platform you're watching or listening to, whether it's YouTube, Apple Podcasts, or Spotify. Click the subscribe button, click the follow button. And if you're able to, leave us a rating, leave us a comment on this video, share it with a friend. That's really the only thing we ever ask on this podcast platform. We don't stop to run a bunch of ads. We keep the message as raw and real and pure as possible. But the number one thing you guys can do to help us out, click subscribe and share this video with a friend. That is the absolute number one thing that helps us so much, helps us grow this platform, and it's a way to help spread this message and help realize our vision. And you guys are the number one way through which we do that. But with all that said, we're going to dive into the episode today because our school community has decided that today we are going to discuss a few different concepts, but largely we're going to discuss with the concept of discipline. How do you build a strong level of discipline when you're pursuing something impossible? And beyond that, how do you implement it into daily practice so that you can stay consistent with it? And then we take it and we're going to spin it one direction further. How do you maintain that discipline even when society expects you to be, I guess we would say, polite in certain manners? And how do you say no to certain things so that you can maintain your discipline, maintain the path that you're on, and keep moving forward in that impossible pursuit? We're going to cover all of this today, but right now I'm going to turn it over to my brother Austin, and we're going to start with discipline. How have we built discipline in our lives toward the impossible challenges we've overcome and the impossible goals we've set for ourselves in our own performance?
Well, right there you say it is setting goals. For me, one large portion of sort of building up the foundation of a disciplined life is being very aware, being acutely aware of my goals that I have set, of the goals that we have set for Impossible Performance, and knowing that without hitting those goals, there's going to be less and less progress made. There's going to be a slowing down of evolution of self, of body, mind, spirit, everything. And so I think the biggest task that I have taken on is being acutely aware of those goals. So breaking that down into more of a daily task, I suppose, is that firstly being aware of those goals and keeping them in mind, keeping them in a very accessible place. I always keep my goals in my Apple or in my iPhone notes. I'll keep them there just to make sure that I am kind of keeping them in mind, keep staying in my lane a little bit. And then secondly, I also keep them in my notebook that I write in on the daily basis as well. So they're always there. I always have to I have to flip by them every time. So that's always going to keep me kind of on track and on pace. And so within that, in that daily tracking, in that daily reminding, I find with that a reminder of purpose, a reminder of what we are doing, what I am doing, what we are doing, what members of Impossible Performance are doing is ultimately trying to achieve a goal of a better tomorrow, of a brighter future, and where can we go from here, knowing what we know now, and what can we learn in the future. So we take that reminder of purpose and apply that to the daily actions themselves. So when you are, in my case, when I'm going to write for 15 minutes, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour sometimes if I get lucky and my brain's working that much, I am reminded before I begin that task of what my goal is in terms of achieving a certain amount of pages that are going to be written, or achieving a particular theme or idea that I want to have mostly evolved, or to a certain manner of evolution by a certain point. So how I break down, especially my writing goals, are in two manners. Is one, obviously pages. I want to, let's say I want to compose 20 pages in a week. That's kind of typical for me because I'll get 1 or 2 pages done a day just in my essays, but then I put pages on top of that for our larger works in progress. But secondly, I could also go and, if I'm battling a particular idea, which is something that I more tackle within the essay format, because I know that, again, an idea is not going to be sort of put onto the stage, observed, recited, reobserved, and then analyzed and ultimately finished. That's not going to happen within a day, typically, or even a few days. Sometimes it's a week, sometimes it's a month, sometimes it's still going on. And so those are two sort of goals that I very much keep on the wheel that continuously comes back to me when I need to start fresh or start on a new idea. So when it comes to discipline in that manner, and in my writing being the example that I used here, it really came to me really breaking down why I'm writing so much. It's a passion of mine, but when something is more passionate and less something that is required, I guess to say, like your job and stuff like that. Like your job, you have to put in the 40 hours a week. For writing, I don't have to be doing this, but it's a passion of mine. So how can I turn it into something that could be a job in the future? What if I want that to evolve into something that I do on a daily basis and get paid to doing it, and get paid in doing it. So having that daily reminder of there being a purpose in achieving those goals, I feel is an absolutely critical piece or column for that foundation of discipline. Is just a constant reminder that there is purpose behind your movement. There's purpose behind your goals, and ultimately it's a look into the future that could be bright if you enact a little bit of consistency and discipline.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you hit it exactly right there, because you talk about starting with goals and having goals that you're passionate about, things that mean so much to you. You want to work for them, because discipline requires a lot of work, a lot of effort. Sometimes there's even pain and suffering that goes into it. And so in order for you to be dedicated to that and stay dedicated to that, there has to be a really profoundly strong reason as to why you're doing it. Now, sometimes it's better to put yourself, sometimes it may look like you're trying to put yourself in a better position. Sometimes you may be trying to put your family in a better position. Sometimes you're trying to serve some thought or some idea exclusively. There can be a lot of different reasons as to why, but there's got to be something strong and powerful there that outweighs any of the hardship that's going to come with it, because that's what's going to keep you moving forward on a regular basis. And it all starts with those goals, or you could call them priorities from a larger scale sense, or you could even look at it as the outcome of a specific pursuit, because outcome provides orientation. We can work as hard as we want for a specific outcome, but no matter what it is we're chasing, the outcome is never going to look 100% exactly like we might imagine it. And ultimately, we've talked a lot about how you have to fall in love with the process. The be impossible is ultimately the part where all of the growth and the learning and the development and all of the happy memories come from. So you have to fall in love with that process part of it. And that's another piece that will keep you engaged on the discipline. But the outcome provides orientation. So having a thought, having an idea of the outcome of whatever it is you're working toward, or whatever it is you're passionate about, or whatever it is you're chasing, that will give you a direction to move in. And that's where you have to start. You have to know where you're headed before you can provide any level of discipline to the process. Mm-hmm. Because otherwise you'll just be kind of aimlessly moving in many different directions. You know, if you've got 10 different things you're juggling on a day-to-day basis, and you're trying to stay disciplined in all 10 of them, likely you're not moving forward very far, if at all, or maybe you're even moving backward in many of them, because you don't know exactly where it is you're headed. You don't have any orientation. Mm-hmm. And we have to start there. So whether it's a priority like family or a business or your personal health, whatever it is, whether it's that or it's a specific goal of a specific achievement, you want to start with that outcome. What do I want this to look like in 10 years, in 3 years, in 1 year, in the next quarter? What do I want this to look like? And then the next question is, how do I get there? Mm-hmm. And that provides all the orientation you need. And you have to start there before we can even discuss the concept of discipline. You have to start there, because you can't apply discipline if you don't know the direction. You can't build strength and fortitude in this area and develop regular habits and daily practices and methods that get you to where you want to go if you don't know even where you're going in the first place. So we have to start there. We have to build that first. Once we've built that, and we've done several episodes talking about that, you know, creating passion, finding your purpose, building toward those things. We've done several episodes talking about that. So if you guys want to learn more about that, we'll include some links in the show notes, but we're not going to dive too deep into that for the purposes of today's discussion. Let's assume we've found our direction. We have orientation. We know where we're headed, what we're striving for, what we're pursuing. How do we show up every single day to perform consistent, correct action to make sure we are working toward that outcome? We are pushing further in that direction we're heading. that's really where the core conversation about discipline starts. And I think really quite simply, from a almost even like a physics perspective, discipline is strongest when desire for outcome outweighs the pain of your current situation. Because if you think about that as kind of a physics equation, and looking at like a concept of like heat travels to where there's absence of heat. It will always flow to where there's absence of heat. Or you can think of it in terms of gravity. Like if you drop something, it's going to fall to the ground if you're on planet Earth. These are natural physical laws that we know and understand. Same thing with discipline. If you build a desire so great for an outcome that you want to solve for in your life, that it outweighs the hardship of getting there, then you will naturally have a tendency to move toward that outcome despite the hardship that arises. And that's what Austin and I have built in our battles with cancer. That's what I built when I was training to run the marathon, when I was training to squat 500 pounds. And that's what we've built in this platform with the podcast and our business Impossible Performance and everything else we're chasing. We've created a situation where we see the outcome so vividly. We know exactly what it is we're showing up to do every single day, what we're working toward, what we're working for. And that our dream for that, our vision for that is so great that it drives us on a daily basis greater than what the hardship is. And that doesn't mean that there's days where we don't fail. It doesn't mean that there's days where we don't miss the mark. What it does mean is that we'll always keep coming back to that standard because we have married ourselves so heavily to the outcome of what we're pursuing right now.
Yeah, no, I love that, and especially in terms of like the attraction part. Mm-hmm. It's I see that in terms of physics as like, especially bringing up gravity. The more massive the object, the greater the gravitational pull is towards it. And so I think the more massive the implications of what you're trying to achieve could be upon your life and others' lives, I feel the stronger the pull it will have on you in achieving it. And that's certainly it's one of many things that I have found with Impossible Performance and with us doing this podcast especially, is that what it means to not only us, but what it means to those who are listening and watching. That's you. And all of the stories that I've heard, of the comments that we've had, and of people just sharing their thoughts, especially with the guests that we've had on before, and hearing how much it impacted them with either just, I went through this as well, or I know somebody very well who, was the mother of a child who went through cancer, and those kinds of stories. It really adds mass to the outcome that we're striving to achieve here, and that only increases the attractiveness of us and myself towards it. And I think, and I don't want to like conflate necessarily like, oh, it just like everybody needs to have this massive goal that they're trying to achieve in order to feel that attractiveness, to feel that pull towards it. And I wouldn't say that's necessarily it. And this would be something to just throw back at you, in that what do you do in those days that the attractiveness of your goal, if it is quite large, or just any goal that you have set, if you're in that manner, like you said before, of, all right, I have my passion, I have my direction, I know the port of which I am sailing to, but what happens on those days that you find yourself slightly off course?
Yeah.
And that you don't necessarily feel that pull that you normally do? Where on those days, where do you find yourself?
Mm-hmm. That's a good question, because there are going to be moments where you don't always feel that, like there were definitely squat sessions I did not want to go do. Mm-hmm. There were miles I did not want to go run. There's definitely days where like you aren't going to be as fired up and driven for this goal as you may be other days. First off, I want to say I really love how you expanded that gravitational analogy. I wasn't even thinking about that, but you're exactly right. Like, the bigger the mass of the object, the stronger its gravitational pull. I think that directly correlates, like you said, the bigger your dream, the bigger ambitions you have for the outcome, the bigger your vision, the stronger the pull is going to be toward it. Mm-hmm. So I really love that idea.
Well, we can't go to infinite, because if we go to infinite mass and density, then it's a black hole, and we can't fall into those, because then you never you go someplace else. We don't know where you go, but
we're gonna have to bring on your buddy Neil for that kind of conversation.
I would love to have
Neil, if you're listening.
That'd be incredible.
Yeah, we'd love to have you.
Quite a few people I can name off that would love to have on.
So I love that comparison, that analogy you make. And I think you're absolutely right. I think really where we need to start, though, before I answer that question, is we need to start with the understanding that you don't have to have discipline. And I know that's like a wild statement to say, but there's no written law of the universe that says you have to have a vision so great that it requires an immense amount of discipline. Now, certainly, that is what we would like to see everybody have. Everybody working toward something they are so passionate about that they have to build an immense level of discipline in driving toward that goal. But there's nothing saying that like that's mandatory for you as a human. If you're content with the life you've built and you don't have massive dreams or massive ambitions, that's fine. You don't have to have that. I'm not going to sit here and say that every single person has to be working toward this same thing, or this grand, massive, world-changing vision. So it's not something that is mandatory for you. It's not something you have to build necessarily. Now, certainly, I want to see everybody build that. I want to see everybody dedicate themselves to it. But it's not like a written law of the universe that you have to. And I think different visions, different dreams are going to require different levels of discipline in turn. So the bigger, just like we talked about, the bigger your vision, the bigger the pull is going to be toward it. It's also the bigger your vision, the stronger your discipline is going to have to be in pursuit of it, because the habits you're going to have to build and your consistency around those habits is going to have to be that much greater as the vision gets greater. And I think that's where, on the days that it gets hard, on the days you don't want to show up or you don't want to do it, there really is only one answer. You have to show up and do it. And whatever it takes for you to get there, there's many strategies you can use, and we can dive into those.
Right.
But whatever it takes for you to get there, you have to get there. Mm-hmm. And I think that's where, for me, it was always coming back to that dream, that vision, that outcome. That was what would get me there. On the days that it was hard, on the days I didn't want to go in and squat 500 pounds, on the days my mind's running rampant and saying, there's no way you can do this, there's no way you can make this happen, the thing I would always come back to is literally the vision of me on that platform with my daughter watching me and stepping up to that bar with a choice to make. Are you going to take this weight or are you not? And I would build this vision for the circumstance where I would essentially put myself in a situation where I couldn't fail in at least that decision to face the weight, to take it, to bring it to depth. And whatever happens after that happens. And so as long as I kept coming back to that vision, no matter how badly I wanted to skip that squat session or maybe cut out exercises that day or whatever it is, no matter what I'm struggling with in terms of discipline, I would always find a way to show up and make it happen. And one of the tools that works particularly well for me is this concept of making the process smaller. if that makes sense. So rather than thinking about going in that I've got to go in and do this massive 3-hour squat session and I've got these weights that I'm not even sure if I can handle, rather than thinking about all of that, I would think instead, I'm just going to get dressed, get in my car. Once I'm in my car, okay, all I got to do is drive to the gym. Once I'm in the gym, okay, all I've got to do is walk into the gym. I'm not thinking about anything else. I'm not thinking about the weight on the bar. I'm not even saying I'm going to squat it today. I'm just going to focus on walking in the door. Once I walk in the door, I'm going to get my gear on. Once I get my gear on, I'm going to start loading the bar. And by time you've done enough of these actions, you've gotten enough of these wins in the process, you get to a point where you've gone so far in the process, you might as well just continue on and do the whole workout. And eventually you reach this point where you're no longer questioning, am I going to do this workout today or not? You're just there and you just start doing the workout. And I think where that comes from is by making these tasks so much smaller and so much easier to accomplish. Every time you accomplish a task, even if it's just getting in your car and driving to the gym, that's a win you've built for yourself. And after a series of enough wins, you're going to build back some of that motivation to go complete the process. But outside of that, even, I think when you build a focus like that on the days where it's hard of making that process smaller, then you can more easily show up to that individual habit, whatever it is. So again, rather than thinking of showing up to perform a 3-hour squat session, you're just breaking it down into a series of smaller tasks. Mm-hmm. I'm going to show up to drive to the gym. I'm going to show up to get my gear on. I'm going to show up to load the bar. And those are much more digestible for our brain on the days that it's harder.
Just taking some smaller steps to realize that those few smaller steps, kind of zooming in a little bit, then when you zoom back out, you can go, oh, okay, yeah. I did that. Sweet. I got to the gym. I put the equipment on. Yeah. All right, sweet. Well,
if I can do that, I can do this next one.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, then I guess this evening I can just I'll write a paragraph, and then when after you write a paragraph, you're like, oh, I'll probably write another paragraph.
Every single time, once you start, it's so easy, and then every single time you look back on it as, oh, that was easier and took less time than I thought it would. Just like us getting we had a bunch of remodeling and moving stuff out of the basement, carrying couches out, all kinds of fun stuff before we recorded today. And before we were going to do that, I asked her, I said, do you want to record really quick or do we want to carry the stuff up real quick? And you said, let's carry the stuff up. And I'm so glad you said that, because once we started, it took so much less time and energy than I thought it was going to take. And it was so much easier to do it in that moment than had we waited till after we recorded. It would have been so much harder to build up the motivation to be able to get all that crap up there. And that's a small kind of menial daily task, but it's a perfect example of just once you start the first few actions. And once you do that, it creates this domino effect that makes it so much easier to stay dedicated to the entirety of whatever habit is you need to fulfill that day.
Because there's a reduction of noise for whatever task that sits there that you know that you need to accomplish, but you don't accomplish it. You reduce that noise by doing it and getting it done and over with. Yeah. Because we would have sat here, we would have recorded, and then we would have been like, well, we got to feed our brains now because we just recorded for an hour. Let's go eat something. And then, not saying it would have been left down here, but,
the chances are much higher.
The chances are a lot higher. So we accomplished it. Now, I would think, I want to ask another thing that I especially experienced that I am now extremely thankful for having chased or pursued after goals, to then realizing that my discipline came post setting goals and post just starting the action. Is discipline something that you need to have prior to setting these large goals for you? Is discipline something that needs to be already in your arsenal, or is this something that you need to or is this something that's going to be formed over the time that you're pursuing the goals that you freshly make? Because I'm someone who had little, especially going into the first round of treatment. I was an adult that was not very good at being an adult. I was not disciplined already, and meeting you, becoming a part of this family here was then and only then did I realize that discipline was a necessary thing, but that without going into and pursuing these large goals of impossible performance, without having a whole lot of discipline prior to that, I found myself kind of catching up, but I'm also very thankful for what I have learned over that time. And then and only then compounding on the discipline over discipline from consistency and staying on task. So for you, is it something that you need to be so concerned about, having discipline going into and in pursuing bigger goals, or is that something that are you just going to be that you will just learn along the way? And what's the value for having either?
It's going to be something you build along the way. I think, in fact, I don't know that there is any way you can build discipline outside of putting yourself in a situation where you have to have discipline. I don't know that you can build the skill independent of a large goal or outcome or vision for whatever it is you're chasing. Mm-hmm. Because, like I say, discipline is, if we try to break it down to definition, discipline is when the dream of an outcome is greater, the desire for an outcome is greater than the hardship of pursuing it. And so in order to meet that definition, you have to have a vision for a great outcome of some sort. And, the level can be entirely decided by the user. But go ahead.
How are you going to be then aware if you were an individual who has not realized the potential of the desire, the desirableness of an outcome? If you're an individual that is experienced the pain and found it not fun to experience, and that you value that more than the actual desirable outcome itself, if you're someone who has not experienced any amount of discipline before in pursuing a goal, how do you start as that, kind of coming off as your first sort of pursuit?
Okay. That's a very good point.
I'm glad you brought that up. That's what I was kind of getting at.
I'm glad you brought that up because that's exactly where I was.
Because if you haven't done it before, how do you know that discipline is even a worthwhile adventure?
Well,
and then you go, hey, I want to get some discipline down, but I don't have any discipline. I haven't made any huge goals really at all in life.
And I don't even know what I want to
work I don't know that, and I don't know what this pain that you're talking about, Matt, what pain am I going to be experiencing? I just want to write a book. What pain am I going to be going through to write a book? So, yeah.
I love that you bring that up, and it's a really important aspect to this because that's exactly where I was at the tail end of 2017 when I started running. Mm-hmm. I started running having starting to come out of one of the darkest periods of my life, having no idea what I was even doing it for.
Yeah.
And it was painful, and it was hurt. It hurt, and it was hard, and it required discipline without any sort of goal, at least initially. And so let me actually modify that definition. I would say that discipline is defined, or discipline exists when either the desire for an outcome or the pain of your current situation is greater than the hardship it would take to achieve that outcome or get out of that current situation. Mm-hmm. So it can be driven, like we've already talked about, by the desire for an outcome, but it can also be driven by the desire to escape a current situation. And that was the missing piece.
I'm tired of being 300 pounds.
Yeah, that was the missing piece I had before. Yeah. I was tired of using alcohol to escape the demons in my head. I was tired of feeling like I had no control over my emotions, of feeling like I had all of this potential that I was just wasting and throwing away, of feeling like everything I was doing on a day-to-day basis was completely meaningless to me.
And almost, what's that word? Antithesis?
Yeah.
Antithetical towards actually achieving something. And it's just the potential is just you're sitting there ready to explode, but what do I explode into? Where can I go with this? Mm-hmm. Where is this even going to be valuable in the first place?
Yeah.
And that sort of being stuck in the wrong room is something that I had felt for quite a long time. Until until I was diagnosed with cancer, and then we started Impossible Performance. That's when I was just like, oh, that's what I'm supposed to be doing in life. Is I now have found a way for my service, for my desire to serve. I found the room of which I am able to allow that to grow, and yeah, it's been pretty awesome, kind of crashing through some ceilings.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, sorry.
No, you're good. I'm really glad you brought that point up, because that's a huge piece of the puzzle of all of this.
Yeah.
You have to have some sort of desire, whether it's to achieve an outcome or to escape the current situation. And you that has to be a driving force. And like we talked about earlier, you do have to have orientation. Now, the orientation that you have right now does not have to be the orientation for the ultimate goal of the rest of your life.
No, yeah.
When I came out of when I was starting to come out of that really dark place in 2017, I started running for really no reason other than it was something I had done previously in my life. It was something I kind of knew how to do. It was something I had accessible to me. And it was something that I knew was going to push me in a positive direction. Like, there's no way that me working on running and building myself into a healthier person is going to like cause negative effects on my life at this point where I was. So if you don't have an idea of a goal or an outcome or something you're like driving toward, just pick a direction, pick an orientation, pick something where the chances that it's going to have a negative impact on your life is pretty much zero. And in most cases, that is starting with some area of the physical domain of performance. And that is, get in a gym. Even if you don't have any clue what you're doing, walk up to the biggest guy there. I promise he's going to be one of the nicest guys in the gym. He'll help you out. If you don't want to go talk to him, just literally go in and get on a treadmill, walk for a little bit, watch how people are using some of the machines, find one you feel comfortable with, experiment with it a little bit. You can start incredibly small, but get in a gym, go run some miles, maybe eat some real food. And that doesn't have to be this big, grandiose nutrition plan. Literally just go to the grocery store, find stuff that was harvested from an animal or the ground or a tree of some sort, and cook and eat that. Start there. Start with these small steps that are going to push you in a positive direction. There's pretty much no chance they could have a negative impact on your life. And once you start there, move down that direction, make that your orientation for a little while until you get far enough down that you're like, oh, I really enjoyed this one aspect of that. Whether it's the meal prepping or the recipes you build, or it's a certain style of training in the gym, whatever it is, find one thing that you're like, I really enjoy that. That's like my favorite part of this. Then move further down that direction. And then keep following that process, keep course correcting over time until you get to the point that you really find the one thing that lights your soul on fire, which is how we define passion. And that's exactly how it happened for both of us. We both started in a place where we were actually, our desire to escape our current situation was stronger than the hardship it was going to take to climb out of that. And then the only other thing you have to build within yourself, you have to start working on a belief that you are capable of escaping that situation, or the belief that you are capable of achieving that desired outcome. And even if you, as who you are right now, are not capable of either escaping that situation or achieving that desired outcome, you will build somebody along the way who is capable. That is our direct message and our mission of becoming impossible. You will build a version of yourself who could not otherwise or should not otherwise have existed. That person is an impossible version of yourself, and they will be created throughout this process of discipline, of showing up to complete these habits on a regular basis that will push you either out of the situation you're in or toward the person you want to become. That impossible person, that impossible version of yourself will step into the light along the way of this journey, and they will be able to achieve whatever that outcome is that you've built for yourself.
Well said. Love that.
Yeah. I think that's what we've both done in our lives. And that's it impacted us so powerfully that's why we've built such an immense passion for this message, because we know the power it's had over our own lives. And we know, in fact, that it can have the same level of power over everybody else's life. So it's why we've built such a fire for that idea, for that concept. And it's why we do the show and want to spread this as far as possible. But this is a really fun way to do things, actually, having no preface to what we're talking about until we actually get into the conversation. Because
just riff a little bit.
Yeah, just like we did just now. I had started with some ideas and beliefs, and you bring up some really good thought processes and some alternative avenues to it, and it makes me have to course correct and say, oh, actually, there's this whole other world to it that I hadn't even considered. And I think by doing that process, we get to a higher level of truth in the discussion. And that's a really cool and really fun process to go down. That's how you and I built this platform, the conversations we would have, back in the day, just between us
Fireside
for hours
chats.
at a time. Yeah, absolutely.
So when it comes to then the application of how am I able to still be polite to those around me when I'm pursuing the impossible, when I am pursuing after goals that require me to meal prep, that require me to sleep at a decent time in the evening, especially when for the adults out there that know that 9 p.m. rolls around, you're like, you know what? Sleeping sounds lovely right now, here soon. So when it comes to remaining polite, but also learning how to say no to those that you were around, how do you approach that? I know that it's something, because it ultimately it's about time, like we talked about before the recording. Time, our time is the most time is the most valuable asset that we all have. It's the one thing that is guaranteed for us is that time will eventually run out for us. We will lose that. We will lose that option. We will lose that option. We have no clue when. Yeah. Like for you, it was almost 12 years ago, 13 years ago. Mm-hmm. For me, it was 9-10 months ago. Yeah. And so what allows you to say no and still be polite about it? And what does that even mean to being polite, especially within today's society? I know you were kind of gravitating towards that before this, but I wanted to get your thoughts on that here.
Well, this is a really important piece, and this is one that I don't think you don't really hear a lot of people talking about this online. As much as the concept of discipline has saturated the internet and social media, you only hear one side of the conversation. And everybody always focuses on discipline as being, how do I make myself do the things I need to do in order to get this desired outcome? Well, there's a whole other side to that of, how do I say no to the things I shouldn't be doing in order to achieve this desired outcome?
Yeah.
And that's the part that you don't hear people talk about. And we live in such a world today where everybody has such a strong desire to be polite, but they have very little respect for those around them. And what I mean by that is, we live in a world where there's so much, such a construct of societal niceties. I need to go to this event. I need to do this thing for this person. I need to say this thing to their face so that I appear societally polite and so that I appear like I'm a good person. But deep down, I don't want to do this thing. It's not in line with my goals. Or I don't even actually like this person and I don't want to go to their event, but I have to because that's what society demands of me. And I think we need to get to a place where we kind of flip the script on that. We need to be deeply respectful of everyone around us. And maybe sacrifice some of the polite niceties that have woven their ways so heavily into our culture. And I'm not saying you shouldn't be polite to people. I'm not saying you shouldn't say please and thank you and you're welcome. All of those things are very good, but I think they're more of a part of...
You can still be courteous.
Yeah, they're part of being respectful. Courtesy is a part of respect. And where I see this politeness come into place is when it's rooted in actually an extreme amount of selfishness. Your own personal desire to appear like a nice or good person.
To appease.
Yeah. It becomes stronger than your actual desire to be a good person. You want to appear more than you actually want to be the person. And it's because actually being a good person, actually being a respectful person is so much harder. It takes so much more work and personal dedication and discipline, like we talk about. But to kind of not get too far off topic here, where I see this the most is when you're working toward a goal or outcome, or you've got these priorities, and then all of these things in life come in and start to demand your attention, demand your time, like you said, our most valuable asset. And we have to build a skill of saying no, of maybe not doing the societally polite thing in order to make sure that we're working toward that desired outcome or escaping that current situation. Because ultimately, when we build the person who gets toward or who achieves that vision of whatever it is we're working toward, that person will be able to serve all of society and those around them at such a high level that you have to work to build that person before you can possibly hope to serve those around you at your highest potential. It's why the first rule of leadership is to lead yourself. We have to put ourselves in the best position possible to serve others before we can possibly hope to even start that conversation. And it starts with, there may be things you have to say no to. There may be people you have to say no to. In fact, there will be. There's all sorts of social events that you may have to say, no, I'm not going to go to dinner tonight, or I'm going to go to dinner with you guys tonight, but I'm not going to eat a meal, or I'm going to bring my own meal because the goals I'm working toward right now demand a certain level of discipline. And when I build that version of myself, that version will be able to serve all of you. It's so much of a higher level. But not only that, it's like, say your goal is you're working to lose a bunch of weight right now. Say you want to lose 40 pounds. You've got yourself on a good, consistent diet plan, and that requires you only go out to eat once a week, maybe. Let's say once a week. But you've got friends who are asking you to go out to dinner 3 nights a week. Well, how do you put yourself in a situation, how do you stay disciplined in those situations? And really, it's just either saying no to the invite or modifying the situation to where you can still stay disciplined and still achieve the ultimate goal of whatever that whatever the occasion is. You know. And so if you can bring your own meals to those dinners, or you can just not eat at all. Because Jaden Lacari talked about this when he was on the podcast. He's a IFBB pro bodybuilder, and he said, if you have a social circle of friends where they demand that you eat the same food as them, the pizza and the wings and the hamburgers, in order to enjoy the time you spend with them, you might need to find a new circle of friends. Because really, it's not about the food.
Yeah, it's about the time.
It's about the time that you spend with those people, the relationships you build during that experience. And there should be no reason you can't bring your own container of food, or just not share in the specific act of eating that food for that specific event, and still be able to have that time shared together, that conversation, the development of relationships. And so while it may be the societally polite thing to say, yeah, I'll go to dinner with you and you this week, and I'll eat that same food too, because I don't want to appear rude. I don't want to appear impolite. That's going to derail you from your goal, from your vision, from your outcome that you have. That's going to pull you right back into the situation that you're trying so desperately to escape. And that is going to corrupt your discipline.
And the only hard work that's involved in that is trying to find the microwave to reheat your food.
Yeah.
That is, let me tell you, when you're on the road and meal prep, stopping at a gas station and just hoping that they have a microwave. Otherwise, you have to eat that frozen.
Dude, you haven't lived until you've eaten cold chicken and rice.
Yeah, my cold beef. For those of you who know what cold beef smells like, you're like, I really need to heat this up. It's going to taste a heck of a lot better, and it also smell a lot better.
Yeah.
The sweet potatoes frozen are just, it is what it is, but it's the beef, man.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's a huge part of discipline. And here's the most beautiful part about that, is that when you can build a habit of saying no when you need to say no in order to stay disciplined, then the times where you say yes, everybody that's around you, all of your friends, all of the people you're serving in life, they're going to really know you actually mean it. If you have to say no to 5 events in a row because you're working toward a vision, and then you choose to show up for an event, your friends are going to know you actually really mean it. You actually really want to be there. Deep in your heart, you want to be there. And in that knowledge of knowing that and showing that I really want to be here and I really want to be a part of this experience is going to mean so much more to those people than if you're just showing up to appear polite or to appear nice.
And we're certainly not trying to insinuate that, like, you don't need to be there for your friends.
Yeah,
but it's really this situation of, if they are your friends, and this is something that you have to reciprocate, of course, but like if they're your friends and you say, hey, like, I can go, but like I need a meal prep and everything. Yeah. Like you said before, like if they're like, oh no, you really need to have this pizza with us, like, and then get new friends. But like they just, if they are friends, they should be respectful of your choice to pursue something that is greater than yourself. They should be excited by that. Yeah. They should be motivated by that, and they most certainly should be understanding. And if they're not, either, have a talk with them, especially if they're friends for a long time and all of a sudden they're just down on you. It's like, all right, like let's talk this out real quick. Like, what, you got a problem with me? Like, I don't want wings right now, man. I need to have chicken and rice. Like, that's just the way that the cookie's going to be crumbling. I would love to have a cookie, but I can't have a cookie right now. But like, we need to go through this, and if it still just doesn't work out at the end, it doesn't work out. I mean, because if that's how it's going to be, then obviously the value of which they impose upon your time has reduced itself. Then you need to get that off your plate. You need to get that off your plate, yeah. Pun intended.
And that's where I say, I think we need to focus on building a culture of respect rather than like a culture of politeness.
Yeah.
Because deep, profound respect is going to make you want the best for all the people around you, and vice versa. The people around you will want the very best for you. Mm-hmm. So if I know you're working toward a goal and it doesn't make sense for you to go out and eat with the rest of the squat crew that morning or whatever it is, I'm going to have deep respect for you saying no, because I'm like, heck yeah, he's working for this goal. He's building this person. He's achieving this outcome. And I cannot wait to see him. Not that I wouldn't want you to be there with us, but it's like, I don't even want to see him go if it's going to make him derail from that mission he's got. Right. And I think that's, now that I think about it, I think that's something you and I have built really strongly in our own personal relationship, of just a deep level of respect for each other and what we're working toward together, but also what we're working toward independently as well. Mm-hmm. And understanding that when something is really important to you, or I've got something that's really important to me, even if we don't understand it necessarily, like, we just know that's really important for him. I want to see him achieve that, or I want to see him realize that vision. And it's a really nice thing. It's a really beautiful thing to have in a relationship where we never have to wonder, like, oh, he's not going to show up to this thing. Does he even care about me? Like, it just doesn't exist for us.
So preposterous.
Yeah. And so it's so nice to just not have that pressure in a relationship, and to know that, like, when you do show up, you went to great lengths to make it happen, and you really mean it. You really want to be there.
Yeah, I don't remember or recall or or am bitter about those couple of times that you refused to eat my dessert. Nope, still haven't remembered those times of cooking a delicious cheesecake and you're like, oh man,
I just
sorry,
threw it on the ground and stomped on it.
I'm on a cut right now, Austin. It's just like, well, then why did I make this in the first place? So, yeah, and that's, and to go one step further real quick, I don't want to make this too long, but so then you have that place of, all right, let's respect each other. This is an incredible journey that we are both experiencing in a very complex manner individually, but also together, this thing called reality. And one step further is then, in a different aspect of removing politeness and pursuing the impossible, at least in a lot of my experiences, and I know that a lot of you are going to catch this as well if you are cognizant of it, is when somebody else makes a comment or makes a gesture of like that, of like making an excuse for something, like making an excuse for not getting somewhere or pursuing something that they have said in the past that they wanted to do. A lot of times in the position that I work as a field service technician, I go and I work at a lot of different properties, we call them, or garages basically, that are filled with middle-class men and women who just they're putting in their 40 hours and then they go home, and then, a lot of them are leading some really great, incredible lives. A lot of them are leading just lives of, enjoying life, enjoying family, and that's it. But there are some of them that also represent a class of, that they could be doing a lot better in life. And it's not a judgment. It's something to where they will sit there and say, oh yeah, man, I wanted to do this. I wanted to cook myself a really healthy meal, but then I just wanted to get pizza, and it's, or when they talk about some ideas of, oh yeah, I wanted to go and do this, but I just didn't want to do it, or, oh yeah, I had this idea and I thought about going to church or something, but then I'm like, I just didn't feel like it, And as soon as they do that the ending of the sentence there, oh yeah, I just don't want to do it though. Instead of going, oh man, that's unfortunate. Oh, there you go. Why? How come? Oh, you were wanting to lose weight and you found yourself in a 2-week stumble of doing this and doing that. How come? What led to that sort of trip? Because it sounds like you tripped, you fell, and then you stayed on the ground. Why are you on the ground? Why didn't you get back up? Instead of being polite with the majority of these situations, especially if it's somebody that I've come to see more than once or twice, in the span of a lifetime, or if it's just somebody that I do become somewhat of a distant, get to know, good to know friend, is just like, why did that happen, man? A lot of times people will say things that will be or seem nonchalant that really does mean a lot to them, but they don't want it to seem like it means a lot to them in front of others. And a lot of times I will catch that and I will flip the table on them. I'll be like, okay, well, why? How come you missed that meal? How come you, again, chose wings and beer instead of, a salad, when you said that you wanted to have that salad? You said that, having that salad is just, it means a lot to being able to stay consistent and stay disciplined, because I'm looking to cut this weight and stuff. But I found myself in the, just for the past few weeks, man, it's just been down. And it's like, why? And I see their coworkers respond in the societal polite way that we're calling it here of, man, you just got to buck up. Man, you just got to do this. And it's like, no, you're not helping them in the slightest by being either polite or just, again, nonchalant in your response. A lot of nonchalantness is running rampant through this society. And I think in terms of being respectful, is one way of being respectful to another person is to engage in this recognition, observance, analyzation, and then correctness, correcting the nature of accountability. And one way that we can help each other in being more accountable in our own lives is to help others to be, is to help others see that, see those moments of, and it's not necessarily just failures, but it's becoming a bit nonchalant with something that you're pursuing after, and helping that person kind of get back to the realization that it is not something nonchalant that they're pursuing after. Because again, I work in a lot of garages. There are a lot of men and women that I see that are. Sorry, when I see you overweight, I'm guessing that there's something probably not going super well in life. I'm not saying that you're experiencing a terrible life by any means at all, and I'm not saying that you're experiencing a mediocre life. But what I'm saying is that when you come up to me and you tell me that, oh, hey, I see you on Instagram and I see you training and everything, and I see you eating really, really well and you're meal prepping. That's awesome, man. I would love to do that. Okay, what's Austin's response? Go do it. I'll help you. I'll help you keep accountable of doing this. And then when you come up to me a month later, 2 months later, 3 months later, and not a whole lot has happened, it's like, all right, what can I do to help you realize that this is a path that you can get right back on? Like that horse is, I promise you that the horse that you fell off of is standing right next to you, waiting for you to get back onto it. It's up to you to get up, to stand up, brush the dust off, and hop right back on that horse and continue down the path. There's accountability that is required of all of us to have and to take and to cherish it, because time is not forever for us on this planet. And so when you tell me that you have goals and I see you not pursuing after those goals, don't expect me to just sit there and stay quiet about it like the rest of your colleagues, who should be on your case as well in a positive manner. I'm not saying that I'm going to dwindle, not dwindle. What's that word? Downgrade you or belittle. Thank you. Not with a D, it's a B. Belittle you for falling off the horse. Like, don't kick a man when he's on the ground, especially when he tells you that he wants a better life. If you want a better life and you tell me that, then expect me to make sure that you're staying on that horse and that you're staying on the path. Mm-hmm. I expect to see the sails in your ship blowing you into the proper direction of the port of which you were sailing to. Don't expect me to if I see a mast down on the on the side of your ship, I'm going to ask you, hey, what happened? Can I what can I do to try to help the situation a little bit? And that's just experience. It's an experience that I capture a lot within my dealings with I deal with a bunch of middle class individuals. That's just who I'm mostly in contact with, and that is what it's something. And it's just simply an observation that I'm sharing with you all here right now, is that I see a lot of people who tell me that they want to pursue goals and they're pursuing them, and then when they fall off the horse, not that they're expecting others to just nonchalantly go with it. They either treat it nonchalant or those around them treat it nonchalant. And I'm going to sit there and go, well, let's get you back on the horse, man. Don't expect me to sit here and stay silent for something that you can fix. I know you can fix. Because when I had cancer, when I was going through treatment, there was some sympathy given towards me because I was battling for and fighting for my life. I totally get that. But at the same time, the fact that I had such a powerful community and friends around me that were like, all right, well, what can we do to help? Like, we need you back on that horse. So do not expect me to sit there silent if you are unable to hold yourself accountable when you and I both know that you can do better and you can get back on that horse and you can continue down that path. I think that is a source of politeness, of which the inability to hold someone else accountable who is trying to hold themselves accountable is something that we need to get rid of in the society as well.
Yeah. And you know what it is? And I think this is one of the deepest forms of respect. In those moments when you ask why, or you just give a different reaction than what the societally polite reaction would be, because the societally polite reaction is also sometimes like, it's okay, it's no big deal. Like, I know you said you wanted this thing, but it's fine if it's fine. Like, You don't actually have to do it.
That's the
it's
nonchalantness
okay.
that
That's
I
the
despise.
nonchalantness. But what it is, then the deepest form of respect you can give somebody is the permission to be totally honest with yourself about the situation.
Mm-hmm.
Because in the world, in a polite world, we have to have an excuse for everything. We have to have an excuse as to why we failed. Like, oh, I wanted to do this meal prep thing, but you know what? I just don't have the money for it, or I don't have the time for it, or I've got kids and you just can't do it. I'm so focused on them, and I'm so dedicated to my kids that I have to sacrifice my own health to serve them.
Mm-hmm.
You have to have an excuse for everything in a polite world, because that alleviates the responsibility. But like we've talked about, when you sacrifice the responsibility over your own life, you give up all personal power you have for yourself in your situation. But when you can approach somebody and they say, oh yeah, I was working toward that thing, but I fell off of it, and I didn't have the time, I didn't have the money, and you can just say, well, why aren't you still doing it? And it tears down this barrier. It allows them, for maybe the first time, to an opportunity to be fully honest with themselves and transparent. And in that honesty and in that transparency, there is only one answer. I didn't have enough discipline. And you know what else? That's okay. Mm-hmm. It's okay if you failed. And in fact, it's good that you failed, because it shows that you were pushing yourself toward a great enough goal. Because if you're never failing, then you're probably not actually working toward challenging enough goals. So it's okay that you weren't disciplined enough. It's okay that you failed. And in fact, it can even be seen as good, because it's an opportunity to learn. And the reason it's okay is because you can build more discipline for the next time.
It's a reminder that the purpose of which you are pursuing is greater than the self of you in that moment.
Yeah. Your purpose is greater than the person you are right now, because you're going to build an impossible version of yourself, working toward that purpose. And it's okay if you didn't have enough discipline. It's okay if you failed. Austin and I have failed more times than we can count in our own pursuits. We've lacked enough discipline more times than we can count in our own pursuits. Yet we kept working toward that mission. We kept getting back up and going back down that path. And eventually it's gotten us to where we are now, where we've achieved impossible goals. We've busted through barriers. We've built discipline that we've never dreamed we would have before. We've built ourselves into people that the things that used to be hard and impossible to complete and incredibly challenging that we never had the discipline for, now many of those areas are easy. And we're chasing entirely new domains that are incredibly challenging to us now. And that's where the answer lies. Have enough respect for yourself and those around you that you deeply respect to build a societal narrative where we can be honest about the situation. We can look at it with full transparency. We can say, you know what, I just was not good enough that day. And not even not good enough, but I just wasn't disciplined enough. I wasn't strong enough. I wasn't brave enough. I wasn't whatever it may be. But you know what? It's okay, because today I have a new opportunity to have that discipline, to build that discipline, to grow stronger, to have more bravery, to have more control over myself and my own situation. And it's going to be okay, because today I'm going to do better. And tomorrow I'm going to do better. And every time I fail, every time I fall, I'm going to get up, I'm going to learn from it, and I'm going to take a new step forward, back down that same path, toward that same orientation, toward that same vision I have for what I want to create for myself and those that I love. And I think that's where a beautiful level of discipline can be built.
Love it.
Yeah. This has been fun, man. This has been really fun. I got a little fired up there.
Thank you, Steve.
Yeah, dude, Steve. Shout out to Steve. Steve gave us the idea for today's topic. And then my mom actually threw in some ideas as well, that diving a little deeper. And it is honestly, it ties heavily into this concept, but food prep in building not just discipline and consistency in that area, but actually the practice of doing it.
Yeah.
And we're going to defer that to an expert far greater than ourselves, Miss Natalie Zambori.
We are not worthy.
Yeah. She is the queen, the goddess of meal prep. And she's going to be coming on the podcast again to share a lot of her secrets or tips, all the skills she's built in that area. We're also going to be working with her to build a meal prep, food prep course on our school community. So like we talked about at the beginning, if you guys want to click that link below, go sign up while it's still free to do so. Get in there, become a part of the community, become a part of this conversation, and someday in the future, the questions you have, the concepts you want to discuss, we'll discuss right here on the show like we just did. But yeah, thank you, Steve McDonald, who is also an amputee, also a power lifter and working towards some great goals in his own life. And man, he's had some powerful posts on the school community. I love reading his stuff and getting his thoughts and stuff we've been able to learn from him. And thank you.
It's been great to see that engagement. So
it's been a lot of fun. And just a special thanks to Steve for giving us this topic tonight, because I don't think we wouldn't have challenged ourselves quite as deeply otherwise. And so it's been cool to explore some of these topics that have incredible nuance that we don't have all the answers to going into it, but I feel like we both have a deeper understanding of having had that conversation. And I hope that everybody listening, you guys also feel that you now have a deeper level of understanding about these nuanced topics. And maybe you guys have ideas and insights that we didn't even consider in the course of this discussion.
And there's a lot, so please
let us know about those. Message us directly. Leave them in the comments. We love going into the comments and seeing like, where can we, what did we miss? Where can we grow? Where can we dive deeper? What can we learn about our own message and our own mission and vision that we're working toward here? And if you want to take it one step forward, join the school community and leave all those thoughts there, because I promise we will have some deep discussions about any of those ideas you guys have. So with that is the episode for today. Brother, do you have anything else to add today?
No, I absolutely loved it.
Yeah.
This was a lot of fun. Again, thank you, Steve, for that prompt. And it was definitely, adding in the politeness was definitely it was a challenging feat.
Yeah.
In attaching it to it, but at the same time, it was extremely powerful to bring that in and tie that into, when you do this, something else is going to have to be sacrificed to a point. And it's and realizing that it's not necessarily a sacrifice, it is just another derivation of the evolution of which you are trying to find yourself, pursue after, and become.
Yeah.
And that's not a bad thing at all. And you and I certainly feel very passionate about, as we had seen there in the episode, is that we see that as being a paramount feat to pursue after for everyone. So it's finding your way through that and evolving as a person, because that's only going to help us as a society evolve in a positive direction.
Absolutely, brother. Absolutely. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode. I know I certainly enjoyed it. As you can see, I got a little more fired up than I've been in a while.
Yeah, things got a little.
But it's been fun. Yeah, so we're gonna call it a wrap for today. Austin's gonna cook us a delicious meal, because he's a phenomenal chef. And if you guys have not had the honor of trying some of his food, definitely give him a follow. Check out some of the things he's cooking, and it's been a joy to experience his cooking and to share in some of the communal benefits that you can have with a meal and somebody you deeply respect, deeply you care about, and working toward a communal vision with that person. It's been a really fun addition to our weekly practices here lately. And so I want to definitely thank you for that. And thank you all of you guys for listening to this episode. And if you shared this episode at the beginning, if you clicked on that school link to check out the school community, thank you for taking that extra step in helping us grow this platform. Whether it's on our short form social media on Instagram or Facebook, TikTok, on X, on Threads, we're on all of them. Whether it's on those platforms or whether it's on our YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcast accounts where you guys check in and listen to our episodes every week. We can't thank you enough for engaging in these episodes and helping to share them with as many people as you know, as you believe they can help. Because at the end of the day, that is how we realize our vision at Impossible Performance. Because we are striving to build a global culture of strength, fostering a spirit of growth in constant pursuit of the impossible. Thank you guys for listening, and as always, be impossible.